All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys Nation Roundtable, where we have a multimedia platform to bring hazmat response information and training tips from hazmat members across the globe. I am Bobby Salas, and I'll be acting as the host for tonight's show, joined by my ever-present colleagues. Let's see, in order, Phil Ambrose, Jason Rogers, and Bob up his nose, Kosh, looks like.
I froze. I don't know what's going on there.
Looks like the Holland Tunnel. That's great. So, for those of you who did not see last week's show, we had a little technical malfunction. We were shutting down a video, and we accidentally shut it down the whole broadcast. Oops.
Something like that. I should not be in charge of any nuclear weapons.
But we, as promised, we should probably go into and finish up that whole. I guess finish up what we were talking about, which was the ammonia, right? The covering the ammonia.
It all started from a question that was posed to the website, referring to chlorine. I think he might have corrected. Mike was handling that.
Okay.
And I think he corrected it that they were using, and we were discussing the Ammonia Institute class where they've got a couple of different interventions. One involving a blower where you use to divert the ammonia leak, and then go in for your save. And anybody that wasn't on last week, we were talking about say rescue consideration. What can you go in and do? The other was using a tarp/salvage cover in a coordinated fashion to cover the leaking vessel, and thus divert the ammonia to maybe a predictable area, then go in and do your thing. And it all started with a question we had on the Facebook page that Mike Monaco was answering.
Right. And you know what the funny thing is, we were discussing this the other day in class that I'm trying to remember. Ammonia is lighter than air, right?
Correct.
It is. But that's the way this tarp brick is the way you make it go down to the ground and get it local to the ankles. Of course, we're utilizing the cold to change its properties a little bit, so it'll make it heavier than air temporarily. You know, that's what the tarp does.
Yeah, and having done it, we did it. The Ammonia Institute puts on their class, and they it's a great webcam view of Jason here, and they you do that, and it actually I'd say it worked quite well, but you have to practice it. It requires 4 personnel, 1 on each corner, going through, and then you can't just obviously drop it on there. You have to. We used I don't know, 6 or 8 foot pike poles and then some rope. It was kind of an elaborate thing. I wouldn't ever try it without practicing it, but it did divert, and it was interesting. So we were in the process of showing a video of how that works, which we can queue up on another episode if we talk about something like that. Maybe we'll talk about the whole training of going through that.
We did it with 2 guys. So if you had like point A, B, you know, C and D on the corners, we had a guy on A and B, which is the short side, and they just basically lifted it up high and dragged it across the thing, and then we just put weights down on it, like it could be bricks or haligans or whatever it was, just to kind of pinch the corners, and that was how we did it. It worked pretty well, but again, like Phil said, you got to practice this thing because
and
give it a shot.
With that class, the other thing we did, I wish we should have pulled out the Kestrel and did the weather, but it was a pretty hot, dry day, and we had the opportunity to go into the ideal H of ammonia, which most of us did, which is 300 ppm, which even at, I think it was 600 ppm, it was just kind of minor irritation. In fact, I'm one of those that if you pepper spray somebody 30 feet from me, I'll start to snort. I'm sensitive to it, but I felt like I could hang out in the ammonia environment, and then with full face, obviously with a SCBA on and a hood, I was in about a 5,000 ppm spray right into my face mask with no effects. But I would also say it was a pretty low humidity, hot day. I think had we been a little more humid, it might have gotten a little more moisture around the mask and started to irritate. But just, they do that on purpose to try to show first responders that, hey, maybe it's not as bad as what the IDLH will lead you to believe.
Yeah. Bob, Jay, you got anything on that? Good.
No, I actually haven't done that type of training with that yet, so that's something I'm anxious to try. They're a little skittish about us doing that kind of stuff around here. There's one company that does the live ammonia training, so I'm going to try to see if we can get that here so we can play with that a little bit. Just another tool in the toolbox,
Even though with a tank with just a smoke machine, just to try it out and get the procedure down right.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, very true. But the training group, it's funded by the Ammonia Institute, and it's a good thing because they're trying to get the word out and get people better trained. And I know what we did, that group was out of California in the Central Valley, where there's a lot more agriculture, and they even have those four-legged things we eat. I think they do a traveling road show. Anyways, if we get more information on it, maybe we can put that out there.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, in rural areas, we go to the co-ops, and they are more than willing. Any of the Farm Bureau co-ops, any of the, your agricultural stuff, they are more than willing to come out and do demonstrations and bring ammonia and play with it. So if it's not something you've trained on and you are agricultural area, reach out, because those people will help you.
Wow. I guess I guess it's in their best interest to do that.
Oh yeah. We have them. We usually do a once a year thing and invite everybody in our county, and I mean, they freeze hot dogs and flowers, and they do all kinds of stuff. They work with this stuff all the time, so it's they're not scared of it, and when you leave, you're educated with it. So it's a visual for us. It's a visual thing. It's kind of fun. So I suggest reaching out to those people because they're a great asset.
Bring the kids. Come on.
Bring the kids.
Make it a picnic.
All right. Well, we have a couple of interesting news articles, right, lined up for tonight. Okay, you bring us into one?
Yeah. So first up, Wichita Falls, Texas, a wastewater treatment employee has died a week after he and a colleague were overcome by what is being described as an unknown gas while they were doing repairs in a basement in a wastewater treatment plant on River Road in Wichita Falls. According to Todd Mudd, shout out to Todd, Wichita Falls Fire Department Battalion Chief, the two were found semi-responsive and evacuated by medical helicopter. So the victim was identified that he had worked for the wastewater treatment division for a year and a half. The report said that there were no threat to the public because the situation was in a confined space. However, some of the roads and so forth were closed as the response went on. The battalion chief said the unknown gases are likely to blame for the incident, which we all kind of can assume, but the investigation was ongoing. There were two other employees that went back to the area to finish the repairs and got apparently it was significant enough, took the wastewater treatment plant offline, and they were able to go back in and get it online. So any thoughts with that story?
Ooh, it's a bad deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, con space, hazmat, yeah.
That's and another thing that speaks to it is that the guy only had a year and a half, and not that newer guy, but those guys aren't as savvy in gases. What's going to find in these areas?
They mention in the article. I mean, we're going into our. Actually, we don't. I think we do a pretty good job of not just assuming, but it mentions unknown gas. So when I saw a wastewater treatment plant, my first waste slinging job, they put, of course, the hazardous waste yard. They put it in the high rent district right next to the wastewater treatment plant, and there's they're treating wastewater. They're not, say, using chlorine to treat drinking water, but I tell you, there's an awful hydrogen sulfide smell that comes out of that place. And I was kind of going through the list in my head. I thought of what could be one of those unknown gases, which I'm sure the tech refs did. We're just reading a news article, which I know another news article you're going to read later, Jason. The original version that we edited, instead of patients, said pets. I thought, oh.
Yeah, so
Those poor animals. So that's a good example of we're just getting the news. If anybody works in Wichita Falls, Texas, and has any more information that they are able to share, let us know. We'd love to let other people learn.
And Jay-Z just sent me a text. He mentioned about them transporting them in a air ambulance. Wondering if they did any decon or anything like that. But being in a confined space area, if you will, for lack of a better term, that kind of transport. I wonder what different people's protocols are with that as far as transporting a hazmat patient via a helicopter. Is that something you never ever do for hazmat, or you can if you decon them, or it'd be interesting to hear what other people's protocols or SOPs might be on that subject.
I mean, speak from our jurisdictional point. We're going to do, if a minimum of gross decon, it most likely is a gas exposure of some type that's manifested in their respiratory system, but we're going to do as a minimum, the quick wash down for sure is for gross decon. What about you guys?
Yeah.
Roping.
Yep.
Because I mean, a lot of we had an ammonia, and I don't mean to go back to ammonia, but we had an ammonia leak, and when the guys disrobed, I'm going to say 95% of that problem went away.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna take all their stuff off the gross decon, like you said, 80%'s gone, and where we're at, we don't usually have to use a helicopter because we're so close to hospitals. But obviously there's other jurisdictions that might have to. So.
And on the subject of Jeff Z, because it's on Hazmat Nation, he had written a 3-part article on a confined space rescue that happened in. I hope I get it right. Was it Scottsdale, Jeff? But it was in a parking lot of all places too. It was in a parking lot of a supermarket / mall, and I want to say 2 up to 3 victims, 2 up to 3 fatalities, and it had to do with sewer line. And it was sewer gas that they were overcome by. It was, I believe, the initial victim, and then the second one going in. But if you search for that on Hazmat Nation, I think it's the only place you're going to find it. There are some news articles on it, but Jay-Z did a nice write-up looking at all the different points. And this particular call in Wichita Falls, Texas, reminded me of that. Not sure if it's completely the same, but they were next to waste, and they're calling it a possibly sounds like a gas-related thing. That one specifically had to do with levels of hydrogen sulfide. And if you read that article, the teams there in Arizona had to deal not only obviously with the hazmat, the recovery, the decision on was this a rescue versus a recovery, as well as decon. And in their case, it was human excrement decon, which is obviously pretty nasty, not as, say, dangerous as some of the chemicals, but something that had to be done at least just to get them get them going. But check that out.
Like one of the listeners, I can't remember who it is, but it said the vapor hair. Yeah, hair. It's going to be hanging there, but you can always sheet the guy. You can plastic bag the guy and transport him in some way and minimize the vapor production.
Yeah.
It's going to be an issue.
And honestly, I don't think I'd really be too worried about vapors coming off somebody's hair, especially if we did a gross decon and everything. It's going to be so minimal at best. I really wouldn't worry about it too much.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the biggest things that I have with, I'm again assuming that it was hydrogen sulfide because it's the probable thing. That's what I would really be in on is that hydrogen sulfide identifies the node. So what you think is, there's a rotten egg smell, and then, it's not so bad anymore. But it's ramping up now because you just don't smell it no more.
Right.
Without the metering, it's a problem. And this, I don't know. I mean, if the kid had a meter or if he didn't, I don't even know if he's a kid. He could have been an older guy. I don't know. But if he had a meter, they have something. They would do repairs in the basement, low-lying gas. The IDLH is like nothing, like 100 parts per million or something like that. So this is definitely one of those. What would you say PPE wise?
I would be fine with, well, what we're dealing with. They're doing a hydrogen sulfide. Send somebody down there with either a bunker gear or a Nomex jumpsuit, and because we're going in a small area. So if I could say a Nomex jumpsuit, Nomex hood, Nomex gloves, and a hip air, some type of supplied air system and air monitoring, I'd be good with that.
Right. I'm the same. I would say gear or maybe I don't know, like a jumpsuit. We have like Nomex jumpsuits, but
Yeah.
it's got to be a CVA because it's not really a transdermal thing. It's more of a eyes respiratory system, sinus kind of thing. Less likely to be. It's gonna be mucosa. It's gonna be inhalation. It's not. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I'm thinking. Unless those levels are so freaking high that you have the possibility of flammable levels.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead, Phil.
Oh, I was just going to say, whenever potential rescue is an issue, I mean, it's firefighter turnouts and SCBA is at least the way to start
Right.
initially. You can always back up.
Well, then that throws out the next question. So, what happens if it is in the flammable range? What do we do? What are you guys going to do?
Yeah, well, we got to ventilate, right? That's one of the first things for confined space.
That's it.
I mean, that's the number one thing before you do anything. You start ventilation.
Right. That's the rule of thumb. As far as if you can boil down hazmat to two things in a confined space, shut down the leak or change the air. That's the only way to do it.
Yep.
Huh?
Nope.
So can we go back for a second? I want to speak to this because I want your opinions on this. So you load the guy up in the helicopter. Any concern with off-gassing with regard to his respiratory tract? It's a medical helicopter. Let's say he gets intubated.
He froze.
That's a conspiracy.
I think so.
I think what he's saying is, what do you got out of the vomit? And if he's watching Todd Burton, who he rolls, he's got an interesting job because not just the initial hazmat, but we'll go to the coroner's office and do some investigation on, obviously post-mortem autopsy, but one he was telling us about with a cyanide ingestion and the levels of cyanide they were getting down the esophageal tract and the stomach. So all that, if that person vomits in the back of the airship, that's all coming up. And that's, I mean, overall, I would hope, on an airship, that's a whole different story. You're used to that vomit. You've got, it's not like the medics are throwing on respirators, but they could, face shields, things like that. But I think that is what Jason was going at before he froze, unless he's just really good at standing still.
Even with that, he's doing a really good job. With that, we're talking about ingestion versus inhalation. And, if the guy ingested hydrogen sulfide, I can see the vomit being an issue. But if he inhaled it, vomit's not an issue for me. It's every time he breathes in, breathes out, it's going to come through the tube. But I don't know. I mean, listen, you can get as fancy as taking like an exhalation duct and putting it outside the helicopter. Hooking up.
Excellent point.
There's nothing saying you can't. I don't know.
Right.
I don't even know if you could do that. I mean, it depends on the BVM, I guess it would be.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. That's not something we really come across too much. So,
You know what? A lot of these things they come up with, out of the box type of solutions.
I think in referring back to Jeff's article on the confined space, I mean, you have a guy with 28 plus years on in the fire service, and I know from that one that it seemed cut and dry, but it was a head scratcher, and and then you're making determinations on the survivability profile on those that are in your either hot zone or confined space. So those are tough decisions that you might only get once.
Yeah. You gotta go? It's the big one.
He's on the truck. Come on.
Alarm on arrival.
That's right.
Roll over so you don't get a decubitus.
Big Red and stays in bed.
Fires have 4 windows, and we're trying to get the hood. Nice. All right. We have another story, and if Jason comes back, we'll address that intubation. Oh, wait. Is Jason back on? I think he's back on. He's just hugging 2 guys in blue suits right now. Well, we'll come back to Jason. So, story number 2, Albemarle County in Virginia. What was started as a stolen vehicle in Albemarle. That's weird. Albemarle County ended up taking a different turn for our investigators. Officers were on the lookout for the vehicle today when they found an abandoned pickup similar to the stolen vehicle. Inside the pickup truck, police found the materials used to make methamphetamine. County and fire rescue units were called to the scene before 11 a.m. to investigate. But a hazmat crew later determined that it was not an operational meth lab. Police say that the abandoned truck was stolen out of Buckingham County, Virginia, and they're looking for people who's responsible and remind the public to be vigilant. So what it seems, this is going to bring me to 2 points. First, tell your friends and family if you see something, say something, right? I mean, that's what it really comes back to.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So these things that are out of place, and I mean, Buckingham, Virginia, pickup truck, that's not going to cue me as something that's out of place. I think they issue right with licenses.
That's every other car, right?
Right. So I mean, that's probably not the part that would really tweak me. Maybe the off-gassing, the smell, the operator would start tweaking me to something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was in Jason's queue, but then just last month in Wisconsin, it was a one-pot meth operation that sounds like they threw it out in the trash can of a gas station, which obviously gets public showing up at, and did some reacting and some off-gassing and turned into a hazmat incident. So I guess the point being, the word mobile, a meth lab isn't just at your local Fleabag motel. It's now anywhere, and including wherever they want to toss that waste. So that could mean you live in an apartment building, you go out to throw away your trash, and there you've got some. I just imagine that your local meth producer isn't really concerned with whether it goes in the recycle bin or not. When they're getting rid of this stuff.
No, and in fact, a lot of the investigations and a lot of what they try to do to hide the investigations is they put their waste materials in black garbage bags so that cops and whoever can't see what they're throwing away, and these garbage bags start off-gassing or burst into flames or what have you. And so that's one thing. But with the one-pots, primarily your Gatorade bottles or Powerade bottles or sports drink bottles, they're, like you said, they're just pitching them out the window in a garbage can, whatever, because it looks just like a power drink. Nobody would think anything about somebody taking a power drink bottle and throwing it away until, like you said, Phil, it starts reacting, and now, we have this weird odor. So, yeah.
Let me ask you about that black bag thing. Is that come down to like that whole probable cause where the cops can't open it up if they haven't dumped it yet? Because I never was. I don't know how that all.
I can't say how they find out because it pretty much tips the hand of law enforcement. But I'll just say that they acquire these black bags from different locations and then do whatever they need to do to gather evidence to then proceed.
Interesting. It's a very. I don't see any.
Well, and we had one. We had one here, one of those construction dumpsters where somebody, they were working on a house, and what the meth heads did is they had 4 or 5 black garbage bags. They threw it in that construction dumpster. A guy got mad because they were throwing stuff in there. Called the cops. The cops opened up the bag, and here's all this stuff. And what the evidence they were able to get from that, it led them to this person's house and their name and phone number and the whole 9 yards.
That's
So,
idiot.
yeah.
I think what rings with me in so many of these things, I think we might be preaching to the choir, but I've met all 4 of our listeners, and they're hardly choir boys. That this is it's kind of everywhere now, and it's something I've been preaching, which is, I think we said it on the show before, hazmat's never first in. I mean, it's so in the fire service, hazmat has become, rule of thumb, we'll let hazmat deal with that. It's like, well, everything we're talking about, including the incident of the wastewater treatment plant, now with associated meth waste being our a new hazard, which you can have your 6-year-old going to throw away their Slurpee cup and all of a sudden trigger off some knucklehead's waste product. But all those calls involve just either the public or first responders. I mean, as a hazmat team, we're going to be there kind of way after this incident develops. Am I wrong?
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, like you said, the first 2 units might get there and may do something, may not. Who knows?
You know what? Every time you guys talk about this, and it seems so prevalent around the country and in New York City, I can honestly say I have not yet seen it. It's not the talk of the town. I'm wondering how much of this stuff is happening that guys just aren't queuing in, that it is indeed one of these things. And like, especially this honeypot stuff. Like, when I talk at the hazmat school and we're talking about this around, I say, do you guys ever hear of honeypot? They're like, no. So I start telling them about how it works, and they're like, wait a second, we had a fire that had a lot of butane. And I'm like, see, maybe they are out there. We're just not categorizing them properly. That's probable.
Yeah. I think the BHO, unless you're just there on some other type of incident, it often may come in as a fire and or explosion and not necessarily present, and often sometimes even confused with a meth lab or vice versa. But in previous talks when we've discussed that, we're seeing it more, the BHO specifically, in the states that have legalized marijuana, because they're using the leftovers, they're trying to maximize their profits. It seems that way. It seems that I think that if the Rand Institute did a little dot map, you'd probably see more in California and Colorado right now as opposed to other states.
All right. Well, let's see. They make it missed as classified as kitchen fires. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. That's Todd Burton.
Yeah, I think that's what's going down. I think there's miscategories. You know what? And I'm making a push for next year to see if we can get this on the table for the next year's refreshers, to start showing these guys, hey, this is what they're doing, and we're a little behind. I think personally.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and Todd's he's 100% right. I forget the exact number, but I think it's 60% of meth labs are as a result of fires and or explosions. So a lot of that stuff gets burned up right away. It's not till after the smoke clears that you go, oh yeah, here's parts to the puzzle. But a lot of that though was from them making it via the red pea method or the anhydrous method, mostly the red pea method. But now that everybody's pretty much gone to the one pot, I mean, that still happens, and it happens a lot. There's a video, I think it's Tulsa Police Department, where you see on YouTube where they're doing a demo in this Powerade bottle or whatever, and it blows up and catches on fire right in front of them. Wow. So it's nasty. It's a flammable liquid bomb, for lack of a better term, that just can go crazy. But yeah, the one pots are taking prevalence over everything else, and that's where your fire is going to be from. And so there's not as much lab equipment, if you will, left over after the fire to realize that's what the fire was caused from.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. It's my retirement career.
Getting into making it one pots or what?
I can't say
Heisenberg.
Yeah.
One of the best series ever. It's requisite video binge watching for any hazmatter.
I've watched that whole series twice.
Yeah, it's outstanding. It's really good.
All right, that wraps it. Oh.
He's back.
Oh, he's back.
You hear us?
Sorta.
Oh, yes.
And we'll see if he gets audio, but I think the segue is good too with this first
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, here we go.
You're back.
It's got the Koch disease. This is like bizarro world. Koch is all dialed down, like, I'm programming in 4 languages now, and it's like everybody else has trouble.
I hear you. All right.
Yeah, and that's it for the news. And back to you. Weather girl, I think the ratings would go up.
Okay, we just went through the whole not next step, the Marlboro, Albemarle County, but you were going into something with intubation. What was that?
Okay, I don't know what happened. My super secret Homeland Security computer, whatever. So no, my question was, what about, is there any concern loading this guy into the hospital or the medical helicopter if he's intubated, gassing with regards to in the lung capacity or whatever it may be? I mean, a lot of question there, but any worry about that?
Well, we were talking about this. We were talking about possible the vomitus, which we already spoke about, so we don't have to really speak about it again. But anything you guys want to throw in on top of on the there is a lot of surface area inside the lungs, but is it a concern for us? I don't really think so. I mean,
no, I wouldn't think in something like that.
Right?
Yeah, I think the key is if there's a question for decon, take care of it on scene, because you know it's going to come up later. Even if you make it to the hospital, whether airship or ground, it's going to come back up again, and might as well address it. It takes, what, a couple minutes, 30 seconds? I mean, transport like that, you don't delay transport for treatment, but in that case, you can kind of there's a lot of hurt you can do with one booster line, or just like you mentioned, Bobby, removal of the clothes, which you would probably do anyhow in most of these medical situations.
All right, let's go around for the last one. Nashville, Tennessee. Did you guys read this one?
No, I didn't read that one.
Oh. Hands-on training is being offered to responders who just run into situations like the story we just spoke about. It's called the Meth House Response.
Yes.
I might just know I'm teaching this, and
I was trying not to be obvious.
Yeah, Jason.
Plug. It's strategy. It's fun. It's a no-fault, hands-on, badass training. It's 2 sessions, Tuesday, October 18th from 8 to 5-ish, or Wednesday, October the 19th at 8 to 5. It's 50 students max. Here's the who, what, when, and where. Firehouse Expo, which is in Nashville, Tennessee, October 18th to 22 at Music City Center. And we're doing the Meth House Response. So make plans on getting in. Punks.
I think I've heard of one of the 2 of those guys. I'm not sure.
I think, well, I'll tell you what I know about it. I think everybody in this room, including the guy that keeps dropping out, and some other familiar faces like Jeff Z, are going to be there and be part of this class. And it's kind of an all-call for anybody interested. You don't have to be hazmat for this if you want to experience the first in for any of these calls we talked about and be set up in a scenario. Firehouse has acquired an actual house. I think it's a 3-level house. And believe it or not, they put a few of us guys in charge. It's kind of like the parents leaving with the liquor cabinet unlocked. We plan on any training that I think anybody in this room is involved in. I'm not too big on the classrooms. The power of PowerPoint is limited. You got to experience it, and there's nothing like putting on a class that leaves everybody tired and eager for more and to take it back to their station. So I'd say volunteer, career, anybody in the area, consider it. Join us. The after party will be outstanding.
Yeah.
And what they're gonna let us throw into this is pretty outstanding. So it's going to be meth, chem, suicide, very much focus on the first in, which been my new mantra is hazmat isn't the first in. So it's going to be you all out there, both whether you're hazmat or not, and check it out. It's the new venue for Firehouse there in Nashville, which is if you've never been, it's a great city. If you don't like country music, suck it up. But if you do, it's a great place to hang out.
It's a great show, although it's all that country music.
Yeah. It's gonna be a good time. Good time.
Yeah. One thing I want to talk about before we get out is Todd up there. He said that my opinion on ammonia exposure would be that the ammonia will dissolve into ammonium hydroxide and slightly off gas, more likely below the federal OSHA PEL, which I think is a rather low number because it's meant for 40 hours a week. And we're more in the STEL, the 15-minute quick hits. So I'm in agreement with him. I think it's going to be a quick hit. We're really not going to be all that affected by it. So even that small operation, we should be pretty good.
Right.
Yeah. So far, the only difference I've found with Todd Burton is I like to be under the water, and he's usually floating on top of it, fishing. But yeah, great source. But having been the guinea pig through that class and got to experience some ammonia, which I'd do it again. I had a cough for about 2 months. That went away. I'm healthy now. But one of the things I thought about later was testing the humidity and things like that. But it was pretty amazing how far you can go past the current IDLH of ammonia, and still be able to do your job.
Oh.
There was one more news story. The thing with the plane.
Yeah.
11 or 12 people sick on the Delta Airlines. They had a forced land, an emergency land. I think it was Tulsa. And they were saying that it was possibly from carbon monoxide poisoning. It's kind of a weird thing. I know anybody that sat on a plane, as they're backing out of the gate and they shut their generator down for a second and restart it, sometimes you get the smell of the jet fuel and whatever, that nauseous smell. But I've never heard of a CO. I mean, obviously it could probably happen, but 11 or 12 people with CO-type symptoms, I guess, had to get transported.
I don't know, and I couldn't find further. And Jason, if you know, cut me off. And my brother-in-law is a pilot, but my thoughts was potentially some sort of fire, and it was a product of combustion CO, obviously, unless somebody brought an onboard generator, but maybe related to that. You have anything else? Jason, did you hear anything more on that?
No, I've not seen any follow-up with that at all. I know we ran this story on Hazmat Nation when it kind of broke and then came back out. Can you hear me now? Because I'm on my last resort here.
I can't read, but your 9600 baud doesn't. I see a new.
It says the internet hates me. Let me try to boost it real quick and just see if you can see it. How about that?
Epic.
The lights just went dim in the entire Indiana region.
I have no. It's like it's Monday all over again.
You're now. You're fine.
I literally went from. Yeah, the internet hates me. Absolutely. So did we get to the Albemarle County deal?
Yeah, we went through them all actually. We're about done.
Perfect.
Like he's stuck in 1996.
I swear to God.
Prodigy right now. Are you on or AOL, the original Prodigy?
Yes.
He's on dial.
I had to listen to that. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this one up. Let's see who's here. Phil, tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, if Mike Kimura's on, we were talking earlier, they'd spotted a 20-foot great white shark where I spend a lot of my time. Anybody that knows me, I'm in the water quite a bit. So we had discussed a new product based on somebody we all knew, and I said I was going to wear it the next time I go swimming to keep me safe. It involves a a swim cap, but then there's another part that you got to put on
Oh my God!
Oh, that's awesome.
Great white
because
back
there
up.
is no great white shark that's going to mess with this guy.
No.
So
Okay.
we're going to make stickers. You could put them anywhere you feel like you need to kick some ass.
Gotta send me that. I'm gonna Photoshop
Uh,
something.
the Jay-Z shark protection swim cap.
Yeah,
I
it's easy.
love it.
Yeah, you have to swim. The water moves for you.
I hope he's still on listening. That's awesome.
What else, Phil? What do you got?
That's it. We talked about Nashville. We'll talk about it a lot more because we're excited about that coming up. But just happy to be here.
Excellent. Bob Kosh.
Bob Costignano, Hazmat Lieutenant Orlando, has him, and we're just working and doing training, traveling around. Got some more coming up. I'm going to do some training for Jason here in a couple weeks. That's going to be fun.
I've become Kosh Jason Rogers.
Yeah, right. That's all I got. My internet sucks. My computer sucks. I'm on my backup laptop. Yeah, it's a mess. Okay, so two things. A couple Jason from Hazmat Nation. You can find me there. I want to give a big shout out to the people. I threw up the T-shirts last week and said, hey, if you sign up for our stuff, I'll send you some T-shirts. And we have our first big winner was Christine, and I'm going to slaughter your name, so I'm going to give it a shot. Saracino. She was the first one to sign up on for the alerts on highs. So we went with Bob Lundgren, who was the second person, and Bob, if you haven't received your shirt, you should be getting it any day now because it's been sent out. So went for that. Couple of things to be watching for on Hazmat Nation coming up. We're doing a new thing called Tech Talk, and you'll see some things come out with it real soon, and we'll be talking to people around the country about some of your tips and tricks. And the other thing is we're going to start doing like a preview, tell us about your team type of thing, win some T-shirts sort of thing going. So again, hazmatnation.com. I'm Jason. I'm going to work on my internet connection, and otherwise, if I can't fix this, I'll never be on again.
Very nice. Well said.
Awesome.
And finally, I am Bobby Salas, and I'm one of the two Hazmat guys from the podcast, the Hazmat Guys podcast, that we go and break down Hazmat material into something that's actually kind of funny. We're more of a comedians that have stuff. You know, but you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and all that stuff. You can listen to this show and every show that we have, both on the podcast and this Hazmat Nation on iTunes. You just got to look it up, and you can check us out on YouTube. Also, tonight and, well, a good amount of times, if you go to the Hazmat Guys and you +1 us in the Google, what is it, Google Plus? Google Plus.
Google Plus.
If you +1 us, we also do a live taping of our episodes with all the bloopers embedded in there, and it's a hoot. In fact, we're doing one tonight. We're doing PPE selection. Yeah, that should be a deep one.
You know, with you and Mike, that could go so wrong in so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I was looking at the outline before, and I was like, all right. So that's it.
You're gonna have to hire a straight man for that episode. I just swear.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Be safe.